What's up, guys? I'm your host, Tim Galligan. Welcome to the Ghost of Real Estate. Today is season 2, episode number 4, and on today's episode, we have a very special guest, Ralph Rivera with 2R Properties. Ralph,
Correct.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, man. So you're a local investor, or maybe not so local and stretching out to different areas, but you are a real estate investor. And I'm happy to have you on the show. Maybe shed a little bit of light on what's going on in the market, tell a bit about yourself and what it's like in a day in the life of a real estate investor.
Okay, well, obviously things are changing in the market right now, and you got to be careful what you're buying. But I do both, buy and hold, and I do flips. So obviously the flipping is probably more critical than it is when the buy and holds, because if you make a little bit of a mistake right now with buy and holds, in 10 years, it's noise. It doesn't really matter.
So what about for some people who might be listening who aren't even sure what a hold is? So you mean rent it?
A rental,
Okay.
yeah. I do a bit of free rental, free market, regular market rentals, and Section 8. The majority of my portfolio is Section 8, which means I get the majority of my rent from the government.
Got it.
Which programs like that, I like very much. Especially lately, they just raised rates by 20%. So
Yeah, that was
yeah,
huge.
it's a nice, because we suffered a little bit with rents, and now all of a sudden it's coming full circle.
Yeah.
So,
I was unaware that I was actually out the whole last month making offers on properties at the old rates.
Okay.
And just got declined, of course. So I had to go back and try and resubmit them. But
You know, it was funny too, because I did the same thing. And then I tried to get the guy back because I did it. And I'm like, dude, can I call you?
I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
And they were like, all of a sudden, crickets. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not talking to you anymore, buddy. All right. But I could have had a really good deal.
Yeah.
But, I didn't want to get caught short.
Right. No, of course.
It's important.
So what's your background prior to real estate investing?
Well, actually, I was a property manager for 32 years, 33 years. I managed big apartment buildings in Manhattan. So I had, at my peak of my career, 139 buildings,
Oh, wow.
10,000 units.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot to manage, man.
Yeah, and it's a 24-hour-a-day thing. It was back when the Blackberries were going off. I'd be on my bedside going roll over, and I was like, But yeah, I to be honest with you, I enjoyed it a lot. It was different every day. It wasn't going in the same stuff, It wasn't routine. There was no routine.
Was it in Manhattan?
Yeah, Manhattan and Queens.
Manhattan
At one
and Queens.
point, when I first started out, I did just luxury buildings. So I did it for a private company, private owner, developer. We did that for a while. Then what happened is the owner passed away and had family come and take over, and they didn't have the same mindset. The guy who builds it had one set, and then the people come in behind it didn't have the same values, didn't have the same caring for the people and everything, and we wound up parting ways.
Gotcha.
So that was all, expensive stuff, luxury stuff. Then I went into a little bit more of blue collar, which was on all the buildings, 139 buildings. It was in Queens. Queens, some Long Island, believe it or not, and in Manhattan.
Was that all one owner?
Yeah, but he had investors. He was basically, once you settled down, I realized that he was like a flipper of apartments. This guy would buy buildings, fix them up, put security systems, clean them, raise rents, do this, do that, and then sell them.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of my background. And then while that was happening, I didn't like the way he ran his business, to be honest with you. I was with people, and I thought he was kind of like a slummy landlord.
Right.
And then I just saw the way it was going. And then what happened is at one point, a couple of weeks before Christmas, I got laid off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, when you're in your 50s.
A couple of weeks before Christmas?
A couple of weeks. Wow. I got screwed out of my Christmas bonus, everything, just. And then that's the type of person that I was. Then they called me back, like right after January, because he had sold some buildings, and I knew he had in the pipeline, he was buying some more, but he didn't want to carry my salary for a month and pay me my bonus.
Really?
Yeah. So he called me to come back. Yeah, I said, and I swore to myself after I got laid off, I had kids, you got kids, you got family, it's Christmas, I swore to myself I'd never be in that position again. And then I started investing in real estate.
Nice. That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not the best circumstances, but it's a good story. Everything happens for a reason, right?
Yeah. I started with nothing, but here I am today, so I'm doing pretty good. I can't complain.
That's awesome. So what was your first, how'd you go about getting your first project?
When I actually wound up I was born and raised in the Bronx. So there was a neighborhood over there that had a house. I knew somebody through a friend that was a real estate agent. And before you know it, we had this conversation, and I went and bought a 2-family house up in the Bronx that I turned into a 3-family. So the value of the house went from really, really low to really, really high. Back then they had capital gains in the first year, so I held it for a little over a year. Then I
Right.
sold it, made a ton of money. And then I decided, oh yeah, I could do this. So I worked, and then I, just figured anytime I needed money, I go and do it, which wasn't the case, obviously. And I blew through the money like any middle-aged guy would do with kids and all, put a pool in, this,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then from there, I just started to do it a little bit. I went through a couple of different people, started to get a business going. But until I met Carl, I got to tell you, I was flipping houses for years. I went to Florida. I did them in Texas. I did them in Connecticut.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I've been all over. Actually, I sold a building, which I didn't even know they bought. I sold a building in Connecticut to Section 8. Section 8 actually bought the building to keep the people in there.
Wow.
Yeah, which was one of the oddest things I've ever done. But So, yeah, I've been all over. And
Wow.
then, I met Carl. Actually, I went and met Les Sr., Les Jansen Sr. He was running the RIA at the Domenico's.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I started talking to Carl, and then I had a conversation with him over the phone, and then him and I kind of hit it off. And he wasn't like a hard sell guy.
Right.
Because I thought, like everybody else, you pay for coaching, he just wants your money. And no, Carl turned me into a real estate investor. He actually turned me into a business owner. Before
Right.
that, I was a hack, buying one here, doing one here, never knew really what you made, what you didn't make. He actually made me turn it into a business.
Right.
He put me on the straight and narrow, even though he is a frustrating man.
Following the MAIR.
Yeah, oh yeah. That, my business plan, he made me do so many things that I didn't want to do, but I thank God that he did.
Yeah.
He pushed me,
That's great.
and it's tough when you're in your 50s and you're starting. So,
Yeah.
And I've been in it now. Listen, I've been on and off 18 years, 19 years, but full time about 5-6 years.
That's great.
Yeah, he's the one who made me turn the afterburners on.
Nice. So now you have a real business structure running.
Two, actually. I got the flip business.
Right.
And I got the rental business, which the rental business has been, in the past 3 years, has been amazing.
Yeah.
I bought 4 units right before COVID, or right in the beginning of COVID. So I got them fixed, ready. Had a little bit of problems getting rental permits, but whatever, still worked out because the values went through the roof. So I was able to get them all rented.
Right.
I was able to get, when I had to refinance because I had hard money in them, I refinanced out at like 3%, 5%, 4%.
Right.
So they cash flow great, and now with the increase in rents, they cash flow great.
Right. That's great.
And now I went from maybe, a little bit of equity, now I'm over $1 million in equity.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in less than a 5-year period.
That's awesome, man. That's great.
Yeah, so that worked out.
Now, are all those properties on Long Island?
Yes, every one of them, Suffolk County.
Got it. Why
Love it.
Suffolk?
I know it. I did the city thing, tired of commuting. I could have actually gone into the city with some friends and kind of did it. The price point's really expensive.
Right. That's true.
City's tough to deal with. It's a little rougher than out here. Suffolk County, I know. I've moved out here and I've been out in Suffolk County over 20 years. So the areas that you think would be good for rental, and areas that you think would be, wouldn't be so good.
Right.
So I was able to pick, and it all has, it has to do with rents, taxes, the size of the house, and where you can get the deals.
What about buying properties right now for holds? How do you feel that the market is right now? Too high? Just right?
In general, it's still high, right?
Yeah.
And I think that there's going to be a shakeout, a fallout of,
Yeah.
What's going to happen. And I think because people are going to get priced out of the market, meaning that as the rates go up, the people who are on the lower tier that were just able to afford those bread and butter houses are getting knocked out.
Right.
So I don't know how many people wanted to buy a $400,000, $500,000 house want to go down to a $300,000.
Right.
So I don't think you're going to have.
That's the reality. That big of a difference.
Yeah, sure. You look at it. You were buying at 3%. Now you're at almost 7%.
Yeah.
So you can pay half the price.
Right.
If you look at it. So and usually it's people in low economic end that get hurt first.
Right.
And I think that's true, and I think it's going to happen again. So I'm looking to. Right now, I'm trying to raise as much private money as I can because I think there's going to be opportunities and just start buying.
Tell us a bit about the flipping business.
Much more competitive than it's ever been.
Really?
Oh yeah. Now what's happening is you will shake out all the people who shouldn't be there.
Right.
Because the market's changing. You don't do your numbers right. You don't. If you think the same old thing's going to work, I don't have to do it. I don't have to make my house stand out now. It's changing. Right. Just the buyer sentiment, whether it's economically feasible or not, they view it that way because the media tells them that. And now if you just do, I mean, before you could just paint the house, make it look nice, and it would sell. I don't care what now you can't really do that. Now you have to, people got to walk in and go, wow, this house is nice, this is different. You got to set yourself apart. You know, do your finishes a little bit better. So I think right now it's still competitive, and you'll still, because the inventory is still not there.
Right.
You have people being shaken out, and the first-time guys or the inexperienced guys or the guys who don't do their homework, they're gonna get blown out.
Right.
And that'll leave good for guys like me, guys like you who are, in the market, have been studied. You do your homework. You know what indicators to look at. You know what a good deal is, and you know what's not. And if you're buying something, you got to project out, especially in this market. You can't project what the prices are today. You're looking at 6 months.
Yeah. How's it been working with the towns on permits for flips? You don't have to name specific towns.
Well, let's put it this way. There are some I don't like them.
Yeah.
I don't care what town it is. I mean, I guess towns are out there to do their job, which is fine.
Right.
But unfortunately, they impede progress. You'll go to one guy, he'll come look at it, and then his buddy comes in the next inspection, and this isn't right, I need you to change this. The same thing with plans. You put plans in, Charles could tell you put plans in 5 different changes. I mean, you got guys that went to college and spent all this time to be architects, and you're telling me that you know better than he does on where to put a foundation or where to put a post, or I mean, it's sometimes it's just, they just try to swing the authority around. I've had run-ins with a couple of towns, and I found them to be not consumer friendly.
Right.
Which
is interesting, right? Obviously they want things to be safe, but at the same time, especially with the holds, right? Like, affordable housing is a disaster. Right?
Yeah, I got to tell you, the towns, when it comes to the rental permits, I like to deal with CDC, right? The rental permits, obviously the town comes in, to make sure everything's okay. But, a lot of them, they come in, it's the same thing. They're looking for the shed that's too close to the fence line, or where they could tax you on this or this. I mean, they made me move dog houses. I bought a house, I was rehabbing it. Yeah, and they had 2 little dog houses. I mean, there was no dogs, the people were gone. Yeah. And it was in front of the house. And the guy said, I can't give you a rental permit until you get rid of those dog houses. So I'm like, dude. They're not even in the ground. Give me 5 minutes, I'll take. But I mean,
Did you have to schedule another time for him to come back?
No, he waited because but he tried to tell me, one of them tried to tell me the top floor on my house was illegal, wasn't there. Now I knew when I bought the house that when they originally put the CO out, the town messed the CO up. And what happened is they had to amend the CO to include, because it was a 1.5-story house. The guy didn't come and plop a half of the house on, it was already there. So the first thing the guy comes in for my Section 8 inspection says, the top of this house is illegal. You have no permit for it. I said, really? So what town you work in? And he tells me the town. I said, well, you should go back there. He said, what? And then I showed him the paper. I said, see this amended CO? That's from your town. That was administered by you guys. Why I got to prove it? Why can't you just come in here and just look? For fire safety and health and safety and all that. So CDC, different story. They come in, they look for the stuff that matters. Leaks, carbon monoxide, all the stuff that matters to people's safety. They don't care if I have a shed in the backyard. Right. That's too close to my neighbor's fence.
Got it.
So, I mean, then every year you got to pay them, right? You pay the renewal fee.
Right.
So you constantly get inspected. You pay renewal fees and get inspected for your rental permit. Then if you have a program, they got to come back in and re-inspect the town. If it's with the town, they come back in, or if it's CDC, they come in. A lot of people don't know I use a private guy to do my inspections, which the town accepts.
Got it.
You can have an architect and this and that. So, and the guy, I've been using the guy for years, and what happens is, the best part about it is he knows how I work, right? Mm-hmm. I was always taught, you go in there, most of the rentals, all of them except one, I believe, I've gone in and totally renovated the house. So I know that everything's working order, and all that kind of stuff. And they get the same thing when they come in, they see the houses, and they say, Ralph, I wish every house was like this. It's easy for me. I walk in, blah, blah. If there's a battery missing, I go out to the car, or I run to the store, I say, can you wait, please don't leave. I go go buy it, fix whatever he wants done right then and there. Right. So this way I don't have to come back, and guys appreciate that. You make use of their time, you respect their time. For sure, yeah. Yeah, and it's worked for me.
What is the biggest mistake you've made along your journey?
Thinking I know everything. I've
project like blow-ups?
Yeah, I skinned my knees on a couple of deals that I knew going in that I probably shouldn't have done it, but talked myself into it. Right. And those are the deals that I got hurt.
Flips?
Yeah. Rentals never. I got to be honest with you. Rentals, the best part about rentals, you wait long enough it works out.
It'll always work out, right?
Yeah, right, because you're getting something, you do it right, you'll get some money. Even if you half-ass it and you make mistakes, you'll still get. When you flip and you make that mistake, it's hard and it hurts.
Yeah.
Because anybody who's ever lent money to me has never lost money. Always gotten their money, always gotten it. Even though I've taken some brutal beatings.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, you know, like you go back to the same thing. You got somebody like a guy like a Carl or whatever mentor. If the guy knows what they're doing and they're teaching you, we have a tendency, I know I do as a male, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And before you know it, oh God, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
You know, you're paying somebody to teach you and then you don't listen because you think you know better.
Right.
You know, you over-improve a property. You know, that's probably one of the biggest things that a lot of new people don't look at, you know. You know, sometimes you go into a neighborhood that's really, really nice, like the flips that I'm doing, I'm buying it at $500,000 or more. So, you know, even the low level on that is expensive.
Right.
You know, so you got to do certain finishes. Some people go into lower areas than that, and they're putting stuff in that I'm putting in, which is a waste of money.
Right.
Because it's not really going to bring the value. I learned that too. You know, you always, you always learn. You learn your contractors can kill you. I mean,
Right.
at one point, I was so busy, I had about 8 houses going at once. And it took me 8 hours just to get to the houses that I had.
Right.
To check on.
Just to check in.
And I was getting beat. Because, you know, the contractor here, and then you guys, you know, don't have a guy here. Why didn't this guy show up here? So, you know, when you're going to do things like that, one of the things is the growing pains. If you want to scale up, you got to scale up.
Right.
Meaning you need to know what your processes are, your procedures, what you're going to do, how you're going to handle it, how you're going to pay contractors. You know, because as you get bigger in this business and you put more money at risk, like now I got 4 houses out, right? I got like $2.2 million out.
Right.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? You can get hurt bad. You know, if you don't have your process down, you don't know what's going on, when it's coming up, then you learn that. You know, you learn to say, okay, listen, maybe I pay the guys on work completed and they got to send me pictures instead of me running there. You know, you agree to a scope of work, and when this is done, this is the chunk of money you're going to get. Until that's done, you don't get paid. Well, sorry.
Right.
You know, you got to learn to work with the right contractors.
Right.
Charles will tell you, Carl will tell you, contractors make or break your business.
Right.
You know, money you can find. There's always hard money people. There's always somebody, you'll find a deal. There's always somebody getting divorced, dying, or has a distress in their life where you need it. But when it comes to contractors, man, I've gotten burned.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I came from the building line. So a lot of the stuff, I stopped it early in the game. But it's like a slinky, you know, it just keeps rolling, because if you got 10 houses going and the guy screws you up somewhere in the middle,
Yeah.
you still got to keep pulling that train.
So at what point does it become a realistic option, or not even realistic, a efficient option to just start your own contracting company?
You know, you take a guy like Charles, he's doing heavy volume, right? You're doing 100 houses a year, 100. There's no way he's doing it with contractors, right?
Right.
Because if you deal with a contractor, you
it's
don't know if on guy 57, you don't know where he's at. When you're paying a guy every week and he has to submit reports,
Right.
and then you have a structure that way. Me, I think single person with contractors could do probably 12 a year. After that, you got to start looking at everything.
Yeah.
You know, because 12 years, one a month, let's say on average.
Yeah.
Which never turns out to be, because the first house you didn't sell in 6 months. You have that one 9 months, and then the one you bought the second month sells in 3 months. So it's a constant.
Right.
You know,
Shuffle.
right. So that'll keep you busy. I mean, if you're one person, you'll be working 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
For sure. After that, then you have to have, like I said, either an acquisitions manager or a project manager that runs around and taking pictures and understands
Right.
what your parameters are. Because,
Interesting.
yeah, dude, I was working a full-time job and full-time investing and doing that. So I was working nights and running around all day.
Wow. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot, man.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, though, that like this real estate, there's so many things you can do in it. It
Yeah.
just keeps me lit. You know, it just keeps my fire going.
Right.
You know, the job at night to get health benefits, because New York is such an expensive place to do anything. You know, I went to this conference and finding out people are getting insurance cheaper than we are, you know, and they can do this. New York, you have to go through the exchange, you got to do this.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Are you still working at night?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, my medical benefits.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to pay, you know, $3,000 a month.
Right.
You know, then nothing goes wrong, and then the one day I need it,
Right.
you know, you don't have it, and then you're screwed.
Right.
You know, so I'm gonna, this year, the goal is just to get out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna look at whatever the options are. However, I gotta structure my businesses maybe.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna be 62 years old.
Right.
Not that I think I'm old. I mean, I'm older. But I still got a lot in me. I still want to do a lot of things.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Hey, listen, like I said, I see young guys like yourself doing as well as you are. I mean, like I said, I went to this convention over the weekend. I saw a bunch of young people, which was really inspiring because I'm glad to see the younger generation getting involved and trying to be entrepreneurs as opposed to just sitting there and taking everything that comes.
Right.
You know, they're out there trying to make their way through, which is inspiring, which makes me feel good. I help a lot of people.
So speaking of helping other people, I would say that most people's questions, I feel like, especially with flipping homes, is almost like a lot of people will just, again, like you said earlier, watch TV like, oh, I want to do that. Or, if people know I'm in real estate, it's like, oh, dude, let me know when a flip comes up. It's like, it doesn't work like that, Let me know. I always wanted to do that. Like it's a hobby or a sport, for example. But to people who don't know, how would you answer, I guess there's kind of three buckets to it, right? One is, how do you find the money? Top 3 ways.
Okay. I'll tell you, this is the same thing that everybody told me, and I thought they were full of shit.
Yep.
Money's the easiest part.
Yep.
You find a deal, you know what you're doing, you have some kind of proof, or you have some kind of blueprint, or you have somebody who's walking you through it, and they know how to understand numbers, right? Money's the easiest part. I always started, Carl taught me this, from the closest to the furthest away.
Right.
I got family members that invested in me, not many, because dealing with family is difficult.
Yeah.
Got to make sure you pick the right person. East Coast RIA, dude, a fountain of money for me.
Really?
I've borrowed millions and millions of dollars from East Coast RIA members.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
for sure. And then hard money. That's hard money's the easiest. You go out there and basically they underwrite the deal for you, so you'll know whether you have a good deal or not too, because
Right.
they won't lend.
Exactly.
It's almost like a built-in safety. If you think you got a good deal, and then it goes, hey, dude, what are you looking at? We
Yeah.
just appraised it at this, and this is the anomaly. Every once in a while they're wrong, but there's definitely, that's probably the easiest out of all of them.
So then question number 2, you said as long as you can find the property and know what you're doing. So 2, how do you find the properties? Top 3 ways.
Me, I'll tell you the top way for me, network. Since I have failed miserably in direct mail. I don't know why. I've tried it.
No one called you?
Either I do, and then maybe I mess it up and I don't say the right thing.
Yeah.
So I'm in the process now of, which I was telling Lewis, I think I'm going to have it outsourced, right, to somebody, because I met somebody that actually trains people to answer phones and stuff. They can do a better job because I'm distracted, right? When you're the business owner and you're trying to answer phones,
Can't.
yeah, I sucked at it. I sucked at it.
Yeah.
I was good on the phone, but you don't want to feel uncomfortable. You don't know what question to ask. The guy calls you when you're at work, or your kid is screaming, or there's always the best phone call always comes at the worst time.
Right.
So you're never prepared.
Yeah.
And I've gotten deals that way, believe it or not, but not what I should be. For the amount of money that I spent in direct mailing and getting the responses that I did, the conversion ratio should have been better. Because you get this breakdown. You should have 15 meetings, and then you get one contract out of it, and that's probably true. But it took me so long to get to the 15. I was like, I'm done. So for me, networking is number 1. I know a lot of people do a lot of direct mail, and a lot of people do cold calling and the SMS. I heard ringless voicemail. It's got so many. I used to do that, but it's got so many restrictions now. And if you do it wrong, if you don't send them a letter first, because then this way they opt in, so you already had contact with them. So I just scrapped all of that.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you, it was networking, and because depends on who you deal with. I deal with guys like yourself, guys like Charles, who have never had a scarcity mindset, right? Always abundance.
Right.
I've gotten deals. You call me on the phone, Ralph, listen, I got this house you want. Yeah, hey, dude, no problem. It makes sense. Yeah. And of course, I know the guy knows what he's doing. So, his reputation precedes him.
Right.
So when he calls me and he tells me it's a deal, I go, and if I see something that I don't think he saw, or if I don't see what he sees, I call him and ask him. And it's, oh, Ralph, no, it's this. Okay, you're right. Boom. So you get it from other investors. For those who are not afraid or think that there's not enough deals to go around.
Right.
Like I said, I was at a convention. There's young people there, and there are people doing 100, a guy doing 100 houses, another guy already had 30 under contract. So there's enough for everybody.
Yeah.
That's why part of what I do and how I get some deals sometimes too, and how I raise private money is a lot of the guys from the group. They want to flip a house, but they don't know how, or they're afraid.
Right.
So what I've done is I've brought people in from the beginning, from when I bought the house, walked them through, watch me demo it, let them go through, see the finishes I put in, see the time it takes, see my crew, see everything.
Yeah.
I've done that on a few houses.
Yeah, you brought me and Lewis to one of your Section 8 properties, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that turned out to be a score too.
Yeah, that was the moment the whole back was like a disaster.
Yeah, cut that back off and threw it in the backyard. Yeah, but now on a 3-bedroom, you got people getting $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Go
It's
figure.
great.
Right?
Well, it was needed.
Yeah.
It was needed because you weren't able to buy a home,
Yeah.
without that being raised. I mean, when I found out about that, it was like really, really, really exciting news because you can't, especially, forget about the interest rate rise. Even before the interest rates rose, you can't afford, based on the standard payment.
Right.
It doesn't make sense at the prices, where they are.
Oh, right. Because I was
then-
buying cheap. I got
Yeah.
lucky. Like I said, I bought one for 130. I bought
Yeah, there
another
you
one for
go.
150.
Right.
Another one for 175.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 of them for 175.
God bless you and your equity.
Thank you. It feels good, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I
No, I
can't
bet.
touch it, but it's there.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to learn, best way to learn, I know you mentioned Carl, so a coach or a
Yeah,
mentor.
and you got to vet them, because there's a lot of national guys that are.
Like you find on the internet, like
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I went to this guy Bill Allen's group, which he's based out of Tennessee, but like military guys and stuff.
Yeah.
So I liked the whole situation, the whole vibe of what they were. Really,
That's great.
a lot of integrity. Yeah, that type of stuff. But you got to vet them. You got to make sure they're not just salespeople, because what works in Wisconsin does. And I've talked to even hard money lenders, even at the conference. New York's a different animal.
Right.
We're very tough, very litigious, very a lot of regulations and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. If anyone has a property that they're thinking about selling, maybe it's distressed, maybe someone has passed away, whatever the situation may be, how can they reach out to you?
Good. You can either go on my website, toourproperty.com, or you can call me, 516-884-9527, or email me at ralph@toourproperties.com.
Awesome. Ralph, thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Thank
That was
you
some
for
good
having me.
knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you.